Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about what really makes a good partner and a great marriage.
Now here's a trap you could fall into. You could listen to this episode and all of the points we're going to go through and think, is my partner like this? Really be thinking about them. And we know that there's going to be a little bit of that, but we challenge you as we dive into each of these characteristics that you are looking in the mirror. And we would hope that you're both listening to this episode. So if you started and you haven't introduced this to your partner, send them the link right now to be listening, because our hope would be that you both listen, you both take a look in the mirror, and you discuss these points about how you can be even better. Because the purpose of this episode isn't to look for the flaws or to try and make each other be like, see, you're not doing this or that. The Freemans are saying it and you need to be more of this. It's not about that. It's about shining a light on the areas where you can clean up your side of the street, to say it simply, where you can, as we head into this new year, because I think a lot of people see this time as a fresh start, they get remotivated. It's a place where you can say, all right, I'm going to work on these different areas. I'm going to step it up in the relationship. Because really, when I think about, and we're going to get into very specific things here, but a great marriage overall is made up of two people who aim to be the best version of themselves. Doesn't mean the perfect version. We're all going to be human, but we both are pulling our weight. And we were just interviewed on someone else's podcast. It'll be coming out soon. And a lot of the themes of the questions they were asking us led to this answer around how both Aaron and I have had this willingness to grow, and that we've always been able to look in the mirror and we don't turn against each other. We say, all right, I'm going to step it up. I'm going to be an even better teammate. Now, we do have the perfect way for you both to focus on this intentionally, because the things we're going to describe to you throughout this, we've got this great acronym for it. You're going to be like, yes, Freemans, I want to do that. And it's easy to lose track of it when you get busy and you get back in the grind of life. So we want to make sure that you know, because this is time specific, we have a January only special edition 30-day couples challenge. So we have had over 36,000 couples participate in our previous challenges, the Prioritizing Us and the Rebuilding Us challenge. And we just kept getting requests to make another round of prompts because they loved it so much. So it's called The Best of Us. And all of the prompts are designed to bring out the best in each other and your relationship, to really start the year on a great note, to reignite the spark in your relationship, to just have a reset in a positive way. So as you're listening, we want you to also grab your phone and go to mycoupleschallenge.com/best. That will also be linked in the show notes, and get signed up, because it is going to be closed the rest of the year. It is only available for January as like a special way to start the year. So the prompts, I'm very excited about them. They're totally brand new, and you just got to read the description. It's so good.
And so here we go. We're going to dive into the meat of the podcast being about this acronym, and the acronym giving you the particular steps to take to be a good partner that leads to a great marriage. And the acronym is going to be committed.
Very perfect.
So we're going to walk through, as there's 9 letters, we're going to walk through 9 particular steps to take to be this, not only the best version of yourself, but particularly how that shows up as being a good partner. And when both of you, again, as Jocelyn said, are doing this, that's what leads to a great marriage. And I think a lot of times with the amount of marriage content that's out there, it can either seem that it's overwhelming, there's many different things you could focus on, maybe it seems complex, or maybe in your particular life, you're just not even sure where to go. It's like, okay, I'm accepting that I want to make the marriage better. I'm adopting that I need to be doing my own work, as we both do this. And so we want to set this up so you can, again, easily see the steps to take. So here we go, starting with the acronym committed. The first C being consistent effort. And this really means someone that shows up daily with actions that nurture the love, the respect, and priority and care that's in the relationship. And it's more than just words.
What you just said right there about it not being all talk, it's got to be in the walk. And look, we know you're going to have harder days. There's going to be days you didn't get a good night's rest because of either stress or your kiddos or a combination. And so you're not going to be at your peak energy. We all have harder days. We may have harder short seasons. But the key is that if you zoom out and look at the bigger picture of a year together, just to start, that there is some consistency in putting that effort to maintain, as Aaron described, that love, the respect, prioritizing each other, the care. And that's why you hear us so often in our content talk about how all the small things add up. You don't just feel connected because you went on a date 3 weeks ago, or you went on a vacation 3 months ago and it was this amazing, romantic, blissful time. You stay connected because of what happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on a mundane day when it's not sexy, it's not romantic, you're living life, but it's the little things. So remember that with the C, the consistent effort to show that love, respect, and care for each other.
We'll start to move through, since we have 9 to go through. The second one being the O in committed. That stands for open communication. Communication is an obvious tool or principle that you need to be a great partner, to have your marriage be great. And there's a lot to it, so we'll try to keep it more simple. But with open communication, it's that you as the individual, you listen to understand the emotion as well as the underlying need of your partner. And this ties together with consistent effort. Your communication is such that it brings the understanding of the actions to display your consistent effort in, because they're not going to be the same depending on the season, the year, the challenges you're going through. What you need to put consistent effort towards is going to be different because the need is different, and the communication needs to be such that you're sharing this with each other and you're listening to understand the emotional experiences and the emotional needs from each other. With this communication, when there is emotion that's charged, there are challenges, we also need to make sure that you're speaking with respect to the other person. I can be in a hard season. I can be having what I would categorize as negative emotions. We could be in conflict, but I still need to be communicating in a way that still respects my
Mhm.
partner. And that has to do with how I'm communicating that handles conflict constructively. And as we said in other podcasts, think about when you speak, it's about yourself, and when you listen, it's about the other.
Mm.
So I can be in conflict, I can be in a
Dialogue.
emotional, challenging state, trying
Mhm.
to express that I feel a need's not getting met, and maybe you're not understanding. But as soon as we can shift to, okay, you know what? I'll listen, and I'll listen about understanding your need and emotion.
Mm.
And when I speak, yes, I can ask questions. I can have a dialogue that has my partner, go deeper, feel safer to share more vulnerable things. But I also want to focus on when I speak, I'm not making my experiences about my partner.
Mhm.
I'm sharing myself. I'm
Yes.
sharing, hey, here's the experience I'm having. I'm
Mhm.
not blaming you. What I need is. So that the
Yes.
open communication also has requests that we can make of our partner. So tying this all together, even outside of the conflict and high emotion, is that your open communication is also proactive
Yeah.
in expressing your own needs and expectations as you see they start to change
Mm.
based on the season or
Mm.
challenge. And as Jocelyn famously says, you want to be expressing these things when they're seeds, not weeds, because that's what ends up getting you into conflict.
You brought up many important and big points there. I think I'll just like underline and point out some big words there that are important. That it is proactive, it's productive, and that there's personal responsibility. I think so. I know those are all P's, which is helpful. So it's okay. I'm feeling this in my body. I want to say it to my partner. I could either say it in a snarky, reactive way, or I could take a minute, take a breath, and am I sharing it proactively, productively, and with personal responsibility?
Yeah, it's a great summary. I went a little bit longer than I
Yeah.
was anticipating. So as we got more to go through, let's move to the third one. So going through committed, that brings us to the M, and that's mutual support. So just kind of giving you an overview, it would be actively inquiring about and encouraging the goals, the dreams, and the well-being of your partner. So essentially that you want to see your partner succeed and be fulfilled individually as well as
Mhm.
maritally.
So we just went away for one night away. I think we were gone for like 32 hours from our daughter, and she was with Pop and Nick. That's what we call one side of the grandparents. And some of the time we took to talk about what our biggest dreams and goals are for the next year. And we have many that are similar and a few that are just like our individual thing we're focusing on. And we, like Aaron said, we want to support each other with health. We both have that goal and it looks a little bit different for each of us. So we check in with each other. Hey, I want to make sure you check, did you make that appointment? Or hey, how can I support you in getting those extra workouts this week, for example? And so being able to be each other's cheerleader, support, as Aaron talked about, inquire, it makes you feel as though you value what is most important to the other person. Because if you only focus on things that are important to you, you could be missing on what your partner wants to achieve. So it's about truly like being each other's cheerleader, support, achieving goals, because that's a big part of what leads to fulfillment.
Mhm. Now, going to the second M of committed, this is mutual understanding. And when we say this, we mean the understanding that the two of you have differences.
Mm.
And we did a podcast on this more recently. You're going to need to accept that there are differences in your personality traits, your communication styles, your preferences for organization,
Mhm.
your needs in certain seasons. And so long as you are implementing a number of the other tools, from our perspective, you're managing the perception, you're putting in the skills, that's really where you can ask for acceptance for the differences. But overall, as being a great partner, having a great marriage, it's understanding that you are different people.
Yeah.
And you kind of know that in the beginning, but as you start to progress through life together, a lot of times those differences create dynamics that turn into conflicts.
Hmm.
And you want to maintain this understanding that we are different people. It's a part of what brought us together. We can use that to become more of a solidified team, which is kind of
Hmm.
giving away the future one, but just that there's this mutual understanding of your differences.
I'll keep mine short and we can go to the next one. It's just that I think it's a matter of perspective. And I shared this with a couple recently on a session that, for example, one difference between us is a matter of how organized we each prefer things to be. And Aaron is very particular, admittedly, about the sequence of events a lot of times or the way certain things are organized. And I could choose to see that as something that is frustrating and kind of have a negative resistance to it. But what I focus on is how I benefit from it. I benefit from the fact that he likes to be very intentional about how things are organized, placed, the sequence that we schedule things. And so it's a matter of my perspective. So think about your own relationship and just what would it look like to have more mutual understanding and, in a sense, like respect for each other's differences and how that makes you a more well rounded team.
Yeah, exactly. So moving to the I in committed, the next area to focus on to be a good partner is intentional adaptability. And it's really your willingness to grow, to change, and meet the evolving needs of the relationship. It includes having self awareness, I think the ability to be self reflective, and also self honest, both with yourself and then verbalizing this honesty with your partner, that you take responsibility for negative effects or poor patterns of your own behavior or the patterns of attitude that you need to recognize have an impact on your partner. And then
Mm.
again, be intentional in terms of adapting the behavior, the attitude, the actions that you're taking within the marriage.
People might not think of the word adapt in their like everyday life and conversations, but if you really think about it, adapting is required in a partnership, especially the longer that you're together, because you're going to face different circumstances, challenges, seasons, moods. You're going to see each other probably deal with some form of an injury or an illness. You're going to face different seasons with your kids and so on. And if we think that it's like, if we're rigid and we're like, no, this is just the way I operate, this is the way I do things, then you're not adapting to the given situation. You've got to look at what season are we in? What are we facing? And how do I adapt? How do I shift myself? How do I show up in accordance with what is needed from our relationship? So I think it's about that mindfulness and that ability to just say, yeah, what does the relationship need from me right now to be solid and to stay connected, strong on the same team in the season that we're in. We can't be rigid. We need to be flexible at times.
And once you're someone that takes on that intentional adaptability, then you can move more to this first T in committed team mindset. So now together you're working on challenges and making decisions with us in mind and not just a me or an I.
Mm.
It also means that you're open to multiple viewpoints. You recognize that just because you have an idea or you have a desire for the way you want a decision to go, that it's not only not the only path, but it might not even be, and likely isn't, the best path.
True at times.
And I get this from my years of playing sports also, that together everyone achieves more.
Mm.
So just that team mentality is that we can come with multiple perspectives, multiple ideas, we have differences, we'll see things differently. We're not just going to move forward with one of these paths or decisions, that we come together, that by bringing all this together, that a team is going to be able to achieve more together. And I think also that as you start to move forward with the decision, you remind each other of the long-term view, especially when you get stuck in a short-term challenge. Something pops up, you really focus on, man, we have to get through this. This is challenging. I think a good teammate
Mm.
reminds the other partner that, hey, you know what? We have a bigger vision. This is what our life is about. This is our purpose.
We're going to get through this.
We'll get through this.
Mhm.
We'll be able to leverage this. This will be a good thing. And so maybe that links you to your faith or your vision, but it's reminding the individuals in the team that, hey, this is going to be something that makes us stronger.
This really is the distinguishing factor. Like if I were to boil it all down with the couples that we interact with, is if they get to or choose to be in a place where they see each other as a teammate or as an enemy. Do they look at challenges and obstacles as something they have to overcome together, or do they blame each other for it? Like that really is the distinguishing factor. So this one you need to star, highlight, really focus on, ask yourself, do I have a team mindset? Do I think about we? Do I think about how we can combine our two perspectives, our two needs, our two preferences? Like that is probably my favorite one of all of them.
Oh, yeah. So let's do the second T here in committed, trustworthy dependability. This is where you as individual, being a good partner, keep your promises, follow through, and this creates a sense of trust and safety within the relationship.
So you're either choosing to be a person of your word or you're not. Like it's really simple. You can be a person of excuses and reasons and trying to talk your way out of things, or you just are someone who makes promises, keeps them, or you're accountable to them because no one's expecting you to be perfect. However, you should aim to be like 99% keeping your word, right? Especially with the small things. With the big things, there's not a lot of room for error, right? You can't be like, well, I 99% of the time don't cheat on you. No, we're not talking about the big things. We're talking about what you say you're going to do with the chores, financial spending, etc. So aiming for that 99% plus. And then when you aren't perfect, when you forget to do something, or when, it just slips your mind, whatever it is, that you're accountable to it. You don't fight. You don't make it then about your partner following up and they're so rigid. No, you gave your word to something. You're either accountable to your word or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be able to depend on each other. You need to be trustworthy. And that means sometimes follow up with them before they bring it up to you. If you know you didn't do something, bring it up to them. Don't be like, oh, I hope they don't bring it up to me. And, oh, now they brought it up. That's so annoying. They have to follow up with me. It's like, no, you circle back, to use a professional terms. Can you circle back with me, please?
Yeah. Quick note for the high agreeable scale trait individuals, you might say people pleasing. We're also not talking about just complying.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you heard what Jocelyn said and you thought 99% is a lot because there's going to be 1,000 things I have to be 99% trustworthy on, it's like, well, no, you probably missed a few things. You probably said yes and gave your word to things, to too many things, and you're not just here to comply. So it also means that being dependable means you're clear on expressing and communicating the things that you don't have the capacity for.
Mm-hmm.
You're not necessarily giving your word to. Even if someone asks, you have to check in first. Do I have the capacity? Do I have the knowledge? Do I have the actions? Do I have the time? Can I say yes to this such that I know I'll be able to follow through? So that's just a note for some of us. I put myself in that category also.
Yeah.
So let's move to the last E here of committed, and that's emotional awareness. This means that you as an individual partner, you understand your own emotions and you're also empathetic towards your partners. I think with this awareness comes that the two of you can be having different emotional experiences at the same time and they don't have to cancel each other out.
Mm-hmm.
I think this emotional awareness also understands the need for self-regulation. This is in terms of emotions, and also really developing the skills to co-regulate, which is, again, the balance of your own self-regulation, how you self-talk, how you self-soothe, and then your open communication, your empathy, your awareness of your partner's emotion, allowing for them to share without countering, without blaming, without turning around on them. And there's a lot with emotional awareness, but I'd say the individual as well as how to co-regulate emotions with your partner.
I mean, this is what so many of the interactions in a romantic partnership come down to, is truly in the times where one or both of us has emotion come up, do we dysregulate each other further? Dysregulate meaning we make each other feel even more unsafe or upset, or do we help each other, to Aaron bringing up the term, co-regulate, to feel understood, to feel safe, or at least that they're trying to understand. And earlier today, there was something you wanted to share with me, and I wasn't like in the same place, and I couldn't 100% relate in that your mind works differently. What you have emotions about is different than what I have emotions about. And I hope that you felt that me just listening and, in a sense, like not trying to fix it, not trying to even do like therapy on you or do this deep dive, like I just listened. I hope that felt as though I was allowing you to process, which is so often what we want, right? Is someone to just process with. Would you say that helped?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. And it's an ongoing thing. I think the emotional awareness, because we're going to have different situations come up, obviously, with our psychology and schemas and all that stuff. We're going to give meaning to different things throughout our life, and that meaning is going to be associated to varying emotional states and feelings. So I think there's the general awareness that I'm not just swept away by my emotions, that it's the principle and that the specific ways that shows up are going to vary throughout my life and our life together.
Absolutely. Can I do the final letter?
Yeah.
Okay, so the D, to bring it all together, We have it written here as deliberate care, but I want to add the word like closeness and intimacy. I want to make this one a long one, but it's about deliberate. It's that I am expressing love through words, touch, small gestures, and that creates closeness. That creates intimacy. Intimacy is a topic that comes up on many, many sessions with couples once we kind of work through communication, conflict. Once you get through that, a lot of times couples are like, all right, we want to reach new levels of intimacy, connection, closeness, fulfillment together. And that doesn't happen by accident. And we remind couples all the time that the longer you're together, the more stressors that you encounter, the different seasons that you're in, you're going to have to be even more intentional about staying close through, as I already mentioned, being intentional about touch. Do you go a day or days without just loving touch, not expecting it to necessarily go to the bedroom, but just to be affectionate, just to show them, I see you, I care, I'm so glad you're here? Do your words convey that appreciation for each other, or do they just talk logistics or even have feedback, critiques? I think a lot of it comes down to, are you filling each other up or are you depleting each other further? Because you both give and give and give in the different areas of life. And you want to make sure that when you come back together, you're able to, as I already mentioned, fill each other up with that love, with that care. And that if intimacy is important to you, which intimacy is both emotional and physical, that you're being intentional about it. You're not just letting, because you're past kind of that like honeymoon stage, which that does end for everyone, by the way, it now looks different. Maintaining intimacy for us 10 years into marriage looks different than it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And it's about not wanting it to be completely neglected just because you're busy, just because you're tired, and just because it's easy to get complacent. So I know I went on a rampage there. Anything more you want to add to the D here?
I'll just add that I see the deliberate care in that it's a commitment that you hold
Mm-hmm.
that drives your action. So that is to say that you don't just act from how you feel, that you act from what you're committed to. And that should be around a deliberate care in the ways that you were showing. So with that, that means it's going to take basically some self and impulse control.
Hmm.
That with all the other things we talked about, from the consistent effort, from emotional awareness, from adaptability, that you have a sense of control over your emotions and feelings, and you choose the individual actions from your commitment to care, to love, respect, honor, prioritize, uh, create a shared vision together, all of that, rather than these moments where it's just impulse driven towards whatever it might be. Sometimes in challenge, we're more apt to make quick snap decisions to
Mm.
try to get relief from the challenge, from the pain, but also just both in challenge, but also just in general, that it's not just self focused, that I'm just going to make a decision for myself because that's what I feel like doing.
Yeah.
So again, self and impulse control with this overall, the deliberate care, that again is really, I think, a great way to close out this acronym of committed, because it kind of ties together to me all the other
Yeah.
aspects that we just mentioned.
And we know that as you heard all these, you're thinking, yes, Freeman's, all right, yes, I do need to step it up there. I need to work on it. We don't want this to just be a podcast that you listen to and then you forget about because you get busy, get back in the grind, back in the routine. These are things you have to remind yourself of daily and to change your patterns, change your habits. Like you guys can be on autopilot in many many ways, and your conversations can feel on autopilot, feel routine, your same routine of going to bed, how you wake up. And we know that so many couples, because we just interact with couples all day every day, want to feel a sense of even more closeness, of intentionality, of intimacy, of, to kind of summarize it all, like reignite the spark. that spark that makes you feel excited to see each other, that you feel you're not just going to bed and it's another same old, that it's like, wow, that was a connecting moment where, man, we're having these great days together. This is why we're together. This is why we're such a great team. So, I truly do not want you to miss the Best of Us Couples Challenge. As we said, it's only going to be available for January. It will be closed the rest of the year. So I don't want you to listen to this and be like, oh, we don't want to now. You only have January. And we're doing that intentionally so that you can start the year off with this great momentum, with this great energy to bring out the best in each other and your relationship. The prompts are awesome. I seriously am excited. We're signed up for it. We're doing this challenge because the prompts, they're really fun. And it's going to shake things up in a positive way. You're going to feel that spark again. So go to mycoupleschallenge.com/best and get signed up for that challenge. We're so excited for everyone that's already signed up. But we hope you took a lot away from this episode. Make sure this isn't just an idea, it's something you actually implement. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can hear past and future episodes. And if you take away value from our podcast, it helps us so much if you rate us, and hope you feel worthy of 5 stars on the platform that you're listening on. It really goes a long way and helps us reach even more couples. So with that, you guys, we will talk to you on the next episode.